Hi friends, welcome back to ABC Learning English Solution. Friends, today on this video we are going to discuss the difference between defining and non-defining relative clauses. Friends, relative clauses are basically adjective clauses. Friends, today we will discuss the usage of defining and non-defining clauses. Friends, before we start the discussion uh, about this topic, first of all we have to know what is clause, what is adjective clause, and what is defining and non-defining adjective clause. Friends, so let's start from the beginning. Friends, this concept is very much common for any kind of competitive exam, and friends, if you have a little interest in English language, friends, I think you will be very amazed to listen to it or to know the usage of it. So, my dear friends, without wasting time, let's get started. And my dear friends, I would like to request you to subscribe to my channel and stay tuned. I'll post these types of videos. So, friends, without wasting time, let's jump into the topic. So, my dear friends, the first thing, what is a clause? Friends, clause, here you can see a clause is a group of words containing a subject and verb. This is the most important thing. That means if there is a subject and a verb, finite verb, that means according to the subject we have to agree this verb. This is the condition. That means if the subject is singular, the verb is singular. If the subject is plural, the verb is plural. So this is called finite verb. And there are some non-finite verbs. But for being a clause, there must be a subject verb combination. This is the first thing. And there is another thing. That is, this subject and verb entirely, if it carries a meaning, friends, if the subject and verb, obviously it will carry a proper meaning, so it will be called principal clause or main clause, or you can call it independent clause, whatever you may call. And there is another type which is called subordinate clause. That means before that there will be a subordinating conjunction. And this structure, my dear friends, will not be able to convey you the proper meaning. Proper meaning means without the help of the principal clause, you cannot get the actual meaning of the sentence. So this part is called subordinate clause, or you can call it dependent clause. In the sense, dependent in the sense, the meaning of this clause is entirely dependent upon the previous, or you can use it after this clause. That's not a matter. The place is not a matter. That means the meaning of this subordinate clause is entirely dependent upon the principal clause of this sentence. Friends, I think you can understand. And if it is a subordinate clause, today we are going to discuss the relative clause or the adjective clause. Always this is subordinate clause. My dear friends, if it is subordinate clause, it must act, any kind of subordinate clause, whatever it may be, it must act as a noun. That means the entire clause will act as a noun, or it will be adjective, or it will be adverb. That means subordinate clause, I mean to say subordinate clause must act, friends, I mean to say subordinate clause must act as noun or as adjective or as adverb. This is the main thing. Friends, defining or non-defining clause is adjective clause. It is not noun clause, it is not adverb clause. It is basically adjective clause. My friends, I am giving you an example. Friends, here you can see the boy who won the race is my friend. The boy is the subject, is my friend, it is the predicate. Friends, this is the principal clause. And this part, who won the race, here you can see who, this is the subject as well as the subordinate conjunction. And own is the verb, that is finite verb. So this part is subordinate and it is a complex sentence. And here you can see one thing, that is who won the race. This part, who won the race, it is basically an adjective clause. Why it is adjective clause? Friends, if any term is adjective, obviously it has to modify, or it has to say something about a noun. That means any word, if any word give you any kind of extra information about noun, that will be called adjective. And if the entire clause give you the extra meaning of a noun, so the clause will be called adjective clause. Here it is the adjective clause because who won the prize is about this boy. That means it is the description of this boy, so it is an adjective clause. Friends, I think you can understand the clause and the adjective clause. Now, some of the adjective clause. Now, my dear friends, some of the adjective clauses are relative clauses. Friends, relative clause is also adjective clause. So obviously, relative clause will give you the extra information about the noun. Here you can see this part is giving the extra information about the boy. So it is adjective clause. Now, adjective clause, whenever the conjunction, you can see the conjunction. Whenever this conjunction is the subject or object, maybe subject or object of this subordinate clause, it is called relative clause. Friends, I think you understand. Here you can see the term who. This is the who. This term who is the subordinating conjunction. There is no doubt it is subordinating conjunction. On the other hand, this term who is the subject of the verb on. So this term who is, one hand it is subordinating conjunction, on the other hand it is a relative pronoun, and this pronoun is used for this boy, so it will be called the antecedent. The boy is the antecedent here, and for this boy we have used this pronoun who, and you know who is the subjective form. So here it is acting double role. In one hand it is subordinating conjunction, on the other hand it is the subject of this clause, so it will be called a relative clause. Friends, I think you can understand the meaning of clause, the meaning of relative clause, the meaning of adjective clause. Friends, I think it's clear to you. Now we have to identify the difference between defining and non-defining clauses, non-defining relative clauses. Friends, before that I am giving you an information, that is relative clauses. Relative clause always gives you the extra information about the noun, there is no doubt. And the subordinate clause, which is called relative clause, this may be introduced as who, it may be introduced by whom, by whose, by which, or that. All these are relative pronouns. Relative pronouns, that means the relative clause must be started with these types of pronouns, and these relative pronouns will act as the subordinating conjunction. Friends, I think you can understand. Now the fact is that it is clear that we got the relative clause, and we have to decide whether this relative clause is defining or non-defining. This is the duty, friends. It is very important concept. Listen to it carefully. Friends, defining clause, sometimes we can call it a restrictive clause. You can call it defining clause, or you can call it restrictive clause. Friends, why it is restrictive or why it is defining? Actually, my dear friends, the reason is that these clause, suppose the example is who studies regularly. Here, this is the relative clause. And these clause is very much important, very much essential for the completion of the sentence, or for the completion of meaning of the sentence. That is why it is defining. That means this part is identifying the noun. Whenever this relative clause identifies the nouns, at that time it is very much important, it is very much essential, we have to write down this part. This is called defining clause. Friends, whenever the relative clause is very much essential, at that time, very much essential in the sense that it is very much essential to identify the subject, at that time it is called defining clause. And the main characteristic of this defining clause is that we cannot use any comma. We cannot use any comma here. Directly we have to write down in this way. And in non-defining clause, friends, if it would be the non-defining, at that time we have to use comma after student and a comma after this part regularly. So this is the difference. That means the sentence is almost same, only there will be the separation of this subordinate clause by comma from two sides. From two ends we have to put down commas. If the comma is given, it is non-defining. If the commas are not used, it is defining. Friends, I think you can understand. And obviously there is the difference in meaning. I will discuss it. I'll discuss the meaning. Obviously, this is the structure, or this is the symbol basically. In at a glance you can understand. If there is no comma, it means it is defining. If there are two commas, so obviously it is non-defining. And for defining clause, it is very much essential. That means this information is essential for the completion of meaning of this sentence. But in non-defining clause, it is not essential. You can omit this part. But here, if we omit this, it will be meaningless. But in non-defining clause, if you omit this one, the meaning will be same. Only it will be an extra information. That means in non-defining clause, The adjective clause or the relative clause is only for giving you some extra information, not essential information. If it is essential information, then only it is defining. If it is extra information, it is non-defining. I'm giving you the example. Friends, so for defining clauses, these are the features. That means it is essential information. That means, friends, subordinate conjunction plus subject plus verb without comma. Without comma. It is very much essential because it identifies the antecedent. That means before the noun, wherever whatever it is written, if we want to identify the noun, this part is very much essential. This is the meaning. No commas are used. That means for defining clause we cannot use any comma. Identifies a person or thing. That means it identifies the antecedent. Now whatever the noun is used before this clause, it identifies that subject. And here that is commonly used. It is also very much important, friends, because in non-defining clause we cannot use that. We can use some other who, whom, which, but we cannot use that. But in defining clause, that is very much common. Look at this. These are the examples of defining clauses. Friends, let's look at this. These are the examples of defining clauses. Friends, the first sentence. The man who lives next door is a doctor. Friends, here who lives next door, this is the adjective clause. This is the relative clause. And this clause is used to identify this man. Friends, suppose this is the man. And if we say the man is a doctor, there is no identification of this man. If we write down Mr. Sen, at that time it is identified. But friends, you can see in the sentence, the man is written, the man. That means it's a general identity. It is not specific identity. As it is not specific identity, we have to define it. That means we have to inform any kind of extra information for that or for which this person can be identified. Here, this structure is written, who lives next door. That is the identification of this person. That is why it is very much important. And for that, we do not use any kind of comma. Actually, this is the who lives next door. This is the identification of this person. In the second sentence, the book that you gave me is interesting. Friends, here the book is interesting. If we write down this one, the book is interesting, no one can understand we are talking about what kind of book or which book. It is not clearly written. But this part that you gave me, this part is used, or this part is identifying the book. Suppose this is you and this is I. You have given me a pen. You have given me a book. If I say you, the book is very interesting. If I say you, this is I, this is you. If I say you, the book is very interesting. Friends, you will not be clear that I am talking about which book. You will not be clear. Friends, if I give you some extra information about the book, obviously you can understand. Here I am giving you this information that you gave me. That means this book, you gave me this book yesterday. And I have gone through the book and giving you the information that the book is very interesting. Friends, if we add this part, then only you can identify this book here. Friends, I think you can understand. If we think about the third sentence, students who work hard. Friends, look at this. Students who work hard achieve success. Friends, here the students, these are not identified. If we write down this one, who work hard, anyone can identify the students. And the meaning is the students, only those students who work hard, only they will achieve success. Friends, if we put down comma here, look at this. If we put down comma here, it is not a wrong sentence. It will carry the meaning. Who work hard, this part will be extra information. That means here the students means all the students. All the students. That means all the students achieve success. It will be the meaning. But my dear friends, you know that all the students achieve success. It is utopian concept. All the persons will not succeed in life. So my dear friends, that is unnatural. So my dear friends, we cannot use comma here. Only we can write down in this way the students who work hard. That means we have to define these students who achieve success. Suppose 100 students were there, 5 students were successful. So if we put down comma, the meaning will be the entire students. That means 100, they achieve success. But this is not the fact. So we have to identify those students who succeed. Here we have to use defining relative clause. Here, who work hard is the defining relative clause. Friends, I think you can understand. Now think about non-defining clause. Friends, non-defining clause, mind it, it gives extra information. That means it is not essential for the sentence. You can omit it. The sentence remains meaningful without this clause, or without this subordinate clause. The sentence is meaningful. Look at this. My brother who lives in Delhi is an engineer. Friends, just try to find out the meaning of the sentence. My brother who lives in Delhi. Friends, it is extra information. Who lives in Delhi is an engineer. It carries the meaning. Friends, obviously there is a speaker who is saying this or speaking this sentence. So the speaker is saying that his brother is an engineer. It means he has only one brother. He has only one brother. That is why this part is separated by commas. That means this is the extra information. Friends, if we do not write down this comma, what will be the meaning? Look at this. If suppose we are not writing down this comma, there is no comma. It means suppose you have three brothers, 1, 2, 3, and this is the speaker. Speaker is saying this sentence to its listener. If he says my brother who lives in Delhi is an engineer, friends, the meaning will be just like this. Suppose this brother is the engineer and this brother lives in Delhi, and rest of the brothers, they are living in different place. So this speaker is trying to identify identifying his brother. That means whenever he is writing down who lives in Delhi, that means only one brother lives in Delhi and rest of the two brothers, they do not live in Delhi. At that time he can use this sentence. That means it is very much essential to identify the person who is engineer. Friends, if we use comma, it means this is extra information, and it will carry the meaning that the speaker has only one brother. Only one brother. It is the meaning. It is the meaning friends, it is the meaning of defining and non-defining clauses. Friends, I think you can understand. Now we'll try to apply it in different sentences. Let's look at this. Friends, here these are the features of non-defining clauses. For non-defining is extra information. Commas are necessary. That means if you use comma, then only it is non-defining, and we cannot use that with it. Friends, actually it is used in formal writing. For informal usage, we basically use defining clauses. Non-defining clauses are rarely used, but it's very much common for competitive exam. Two commas, entirely it can change the meaning, and sometimes this meaning may be very awkward. I am giving you example. So here you can see example of non-defining clauses. Kolkata, which is known as the city of joy. Friends, here you can see which is known as the city of joy. It is extra information because Kolkata is, if you use the term, if you use any kind of proper noun, it is always identified. That means you no need to identify it by some other clauses or by some other words. There, no identification is not mandatory here. So Kolkata is famous. It is a complete sentence. This part is extra. That is why it is separated by commas. It is called non-defining clause. Here you can see Mr. Sen, who teaches English, is absent today. Friends, actually Mr. Sen, it is proper noun. It is identified. So this is extra information. You can omit this sentence. If you omit this sentence, the meaning will remain same. The same thing here. You can see in the third sentence. You can see the same thing, same situation. Shakespeare, it is well-known person. No need to give this information. It is extra. That is why it is separated. As it is proper noun, it is identified. So Shakespeare was English. Friends, here we should write down the English. So Shakespeare, it is identified. So it is extra information. It is called non-defining clause. So my dear friends, this is the difference between defining and non-defining clause. Defining clause is essential information. That means we have to provide it, no commas, and we can use that. And for non-defining clauses, it is extra information. If we can omit it. It is separated with commas. Usually we cannot use that. Friends, these are the difference. Now this is comma rule. That means the boy who were absent missed the test. Friends, it means the boys who were absent, they only missed the test. Friends, if we write down in this way, the boys, comma, who were absent, miss the test. If we write down in this way, it means this is extra information. forget about this one. So the boys miss the test, this it means all the boys miss the test. Friends, I think you can understand the difference. And some extra points about this usage. Defining clauses can restrict meaning. Restrict meaning means it is very much essential. It identifies the subject. Friends, I think you can understand. Non-defining clauses merely add comments, or relative pronouns may sometimes be omitted in defining clause. Friends, one thing, in defining clause we can omit the relative pronoun, or the conjunction, but we cannot omit the subject or omit the relative pronoun. We cannot, friends, we cannot omit relative pronoun in non-defining clauses. Friends, we have to keep it in mind always. Friends, look at this error. My brother that lives in Delhi is a doctor. Friends, here the correct sentence is who lives in Delhi, and I have told you, if you separate it, it carries the meaning you have only one brother. If you friends, if you do not use these commas, it means you have more than one brother, and you are trying to identify that brother who is a doctor. Friends, this is the difference in meaning. I think you can understand. Now there is a question. The question is identify the clause type. The girl who won the prize is my cousin. Friends, here you can see this is the subordinate clause who won the prize. There is no doubt. And there is no comma. So it is essential. This is the first thing. And this part is used to identify this girl. This is also clear. So obviously it's a defining clause. It's a defining clause. Now, my dear friends, my car which I bought last year is very fast. Now add commas correctly. Friends, if we add comma, if we want to add comma, so we have to put down comma here. My car, comma, which I bought last year, comma. That means we have to separate it by two commas. Friends, it became non-defining clause. That means it is extra information. It is extra information. And carries the meaning you have only one car, and that is very fast. Friends, this is the meaning. And one thing, my dear friends, if we do not use the comma, will it be a wrong sentence? No, my dear friends, it will not be wrong. My car which I bought last year, if we write down in this way, so it will carry the meaning you have more than one car. Suppose you have three cars, and this one, number 2, you have bought last year. That means this is 2026, you have bought it 2025 in 2025. Maybe it is bought in 2023, it is bought in 2022, and you want to identify this car. If you want to say it at that time, you have to use defining clause just like this, without comma. My car which I bought last year, there will be no comma. It means you have more than one cars, and you want to identify this car by using this defining clause. Friends, I think it's clear to you. Friends, sometimes these type of sentences may be very much awkward. Just I am giving you one example. Let's look at this. If I write down in this way, my friends, if we do not use the comma properly, the meaning may be different. Look at this, and it will be awkward. My father, who is a doctor, gave me this pen. Gave me the pen. Suppose this is the sentence. Now look at this. Here we have written my father, this is the subject, and gave me the pen, it is the predicate of the subject. That means it is principal clause. And who is a doctor. Friends, if you write down in this way, it will carry the meaning that I have more than one father. But biologically, it is not possible, you know it. So obviously, who is a doctor, it is extra information, and you have to separate it. Otherwise, it will carry the meaning. Otherwise, it will carry the meaning. Otherwise, it will carry the meaning that you have more than one father, and one father maybe one father is a doctor, one father is an engineer, one father is something others teacher. it will carry this meaning, and this meaning, it's awkward. If it is brother, it is possible, but if it is father, so biologically, only one person may be the father. So obviously this part is extra information, and we have to separate it by commas. That means we have to use non-defining relative clause here. We cannot use defining clause, because father is always identified. No need to identify by using any extra clause. Friends, I think you can understand the logic, you can understand the meaning, you can understand the difference of defining and non-defining clauses. Friends, I discussed my best. If you have any suggestion, you can write down in the comment section. I will try to improve it, or if you have any kind of questions, you can write down also in the comment section. I will try to solve it. Friends, I think the video is very much beneficial for you. Friends, I'll post these types of videos regularly. That's why I request you to subscribe to my channel and stay tuned. So my dear friends, thank you very much. Best of luck for your upcoming exams or for your learning. So my dear friends, thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you.